Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is another junk journal with me, and today's video is a collaboration. This is my page for Junk Journal January, hosted by Meg Journals. This is a challenge that we do every year. There is a different creator sharing a video every day for the month of January to share some inspiration and ideas to hopefully get you excited and inspired to journal. So everybody shares their own take on their own prompt, and today my prompt is fabric. In this page, I am going to use some fabric as like a background, sort of like a scrapbook paper, and I'm just fiddling around with a few different bits of fabric that I had in my stash, just little scraps that I'm going to use to decorate the page. And this page is going to be documenting our New Year's Eve photos. So I have some photos from the fireworks that we watched. So as always, I'm just laying out my bits and pieces across the page to try and figure out what sort of layout I'm going to go with. So the first thing I did was I selected a fabric to glue directly on the page, and I was trying to pick out of this blue fabric or the pink fabric. I think the pink fabric looked prettier, but for some reason I just liked that high contrast of the blue. And so I'm gluing this down with some wet PVA glue. I just spread that with my brush. And then once that's glued down on the page, I'm just trimming off the excess fabric so that it's flush against the page. And again, I'm just kind of treating the fabric as scrapbook paper or like a background paper. And you can easily do this in your journal to add lots of lovely texture. Fabric adds a completely different texture, but if you don't like to use actual fabric, you can also always scan your fabric in and then print it out as a paper design. There's so many different ways that you can incorporate fabric in your journals. I've tried lots of different ways previously in my journals, like little fold out pieces, like sewing in little flaps of hankies, like vintage hankies or doilies, and creating pockets with doilies. I also love to scan in my doilies and print them out as little linens, which I have plenty of in my Etsy shop as well, by the way. For this page, I'm playing around with fabric and I'm also playing around with some trims. So you'll see that as we go along. But basically, I'm sectioning the page with the fabric and also with some paint. So I've pulled out some black gouache paint and I'm painting over a section of the page right in the middle. I'm also painting over the right side where the storybook paper is, and I'm painting like almost half of the page to paint over the text that I don't necessarily want showing. And then I'm going to section this off with a piece of trim, which you'll see shortly. So I have this little piece of floral trim, which I'm going to use on the left page. And I'm going to glue this again with my wet PVA glue over the edge where the fabric ends, just to make the end of that fabric look a little bit neater and to transition into that painted background. So I'm gluing this down with the wet glue. I'm just pressing and holding it to sort of get it to sit firm on the page, and then once that dries, it's stuck on really well. You can also use staples to help reinforce fabrics as they're drying. Then, just to give myself a better idea of where the page is going, I pulled out the photos that I wanted to include on the page. These are some Instax photos, and I'm just working out the layout of the photos. And then once I have a basic idea of where my photos are going to sit, I'm also gluing another little piece of striped trim on the right side. Again, just where that black paint ends, so that the end of the painting looks really nice and neat. Once that black paint in the middle has dried enough, I'm also going to start attaching those photos down. So I started with the photos that were not on the black paint just to give it that bit of extra drying time. And for the photo that I stuck on top of the piece of fabric, I just used staples, and for all of the other photos, I used double-sided tape. I'm trying to just create a layout that's kind of easy on the eye. I don't want the layout to look super photo heavy, and I want it to look kind of balanced. So I'm just trying to spread the photos across the page in a way that looks nice, and that also leaves me some room to paint because I'm planning on painting some fireworks on top of that black base. And then I pulled out again my gouache paint set, and I'm going to start painting some messy fireworks across the page in various colors. And this painting is not a masterpiece by any means, but I've been really trying to do lots of painting in my journals. In my previous journal, I started painting on most of my spreads, and I really loved how that journal turned out. So I'm trying to continue the habit in this new journal by incorporating painting, and I feel like this is helping me with my paint skills because the focus is just on practice. So I'm not worried too much about the end result when I'm painting in my journal. I don't really care if it looks amazing. I am decorating the page, but I don't need the page to look like a masterpiece. So I'm just treating it as practice, and I find that this is helping me to get so much more painting and art practice in because I'm incorporating it in my regular journaling process. So I'm filling the top of the page up with some fireworks in various colors and adding some highlights with some white paint. And then once I was happy with this, I am also pulling out my little white pen. This is the Uniball Signo white pen, and I find the slower you write, the better the ink rolls out. So I really need to slow down when I'm journaling with this pen, but it looks really nice on the black background. Once I'm happy with that, I'm pulling out some stickers and I'm just going to embellish the page a little bit. I wanted to write 31st of December, but all of my alphabet stickers were missing pretty much all the vowels that I needed, and also the letter R. So I kind of just left the vowels out, and then I used a P for the letter R, and I went in with my paint to turn it into an R. So it looks kind of funny, but I don't really care. Then I'm just adding some more stickers around the page, just some little tiny word stickers and some stars just to decorate the page and to help tie everything together. I feel like this page looks a little bit random and maybe all of the elements don't match super well, but again, I'm trying not to be too serious about my journal pages and not treat it like it's a work of art, because it's just journaling and it's supposed to be a fun process and a documenting process. So that's what I'm focusing on. And here is a look at the finished page. I will have everything linked down below for the Junk Journal January collab. So there's a playlist if you want to watch everybody else's videos in this collab. I really hope that you enjoyed my little process today, and I will see you again very soon in my next video.